For this video, it will be a time lapse of Miles Morales using felt tip pens and Copic markers. I wanted to change up and do something simpler. This was originally going to be just a sketch, but I wanted to upgrade it and work at a larger scale. So I'm just using some basic cardstock paper. Also, I was trying out new angles for filming since working so large with my camera stand. The last time I was working 11x17, I feel like I didn't, like some parts are cut off. For this one, it didn't entirely work out because I thought the way I put the camera in my head wasn't gonna get in the way, but at one point, entire footage was just not captured because my dang head was in the way. So yes, apologies for some missing footage. Was actually figuring out how I was going to color him. I decided to outline the red parts with a red micron pen since I find Copic markers I can never get to a fine enough point without it having that fuzzy edge. I wasn't that clean about it. I thought since I knew I'd be filling in the rest with black and that could easily cover up any mistakes of the red later on. I also am currently playing Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS5. I think I actually just completed it. I hadn't gotten around to finishing it a while back, mostly just because I kept playing City Skylines a lot. I'm obsessed with that game. So, this was never really intended to be like the most final drawing ever, but I just, as I said, wanted something large scale but not too rough. The background later on you'll see it's a bit scuffed. I definitely need way more practice with drawing buildings and stuff. Just because I always used to draw it digitally, and I mostly rely on, the guides and everything and being able to erase 100 times. But I really like the idea of working traditionally and actually being able to accomplish drawing that all traditionally. So this took way longer to ink, and I definitely had to speed up the video quite a bit just because my hands started cramping up. I believe I discovered it was the position I was holding the board in just so the camera would capture it, so I won't be filming it the same way again like this just because it really was not good for my hand, and like the whole point is I'm drawing, right? And if I screw up my hand, how am I gonna draw? So this drawing got drawn out a bit, haha, just because of, my hand cramping up and different events that were happening. So August got really busy, and this video actually ended up coming out after the August vlog, even though technically I think I drew this mid-August or whenever I posted just like Miles being done. So here's the finished line work of Miles. And then I get into the Copic work. I go into filling in and just like strengthening all the lines. Not much to it, but yeah, I do recommend usually going over before, like around with felt tip pen if the paper you're using could create bleeding and stuff. Because yeah, I haven't really gotten any types of alcohol markers that have very small nibs or bullet nibs or anything like that. But in my experience, at least the brush nibs in most cases will still kind of not be thin enough, or at least I haven't been able to master them to, work fast enough for them to not do that. Like I'd have to work like insanely slow to get like a very, very tiny thin line, and I don't know, I have zero patience for that. So if you're the type of person that has that and has achieved it with your alcohol markers, then that would be great. Again, this is actually a new red Copic marker, so maybe these are crappier, because I did just recently hear actually that new Copic markers are just not the same quality as before. I don't know if that's the case. At least it's juicy, so that's good. But yeah, I only just replaced the red one because I do often draw Spider-Man with Copic markers. That's about it when I'm just sketching for fun. But in the most part, I, as you can can see for most of my channel, I usually use watercolors or any kind of paints. So, for the black Copic marker, wow, this marker actually ended up giving me quite a bit of grief just because it sort of started running out at a half point, and that wasn't even the worst part. It actually, I had a huge problem with every time I was opening it up, all of a sudden, it was getting so stuck, and at one point, when I yanked it out, I think the entire nib came out. I got quite a bit of ink all over me. Well, not too bad, but way more than you normally, I guess, would with Copic markers when they're acting normal, or any alcohol markers. So yeah, I really had to power through with this marker just because I do actually own two other alcohol markers, but the problem is they're different brands, and different brand blacks are going to be like a different shade of black, right? Because I think the Copic one in particular is cool and very solid black, I suppose, while the Winsor & Newton one I think is like a warmer one and is a bit faded, not quite black. It's weird. It's very juicy because it's a much newer marker. So I actually don't even know if this black in particular is a replacement one or just one that's like 15 years old. So that was fun, but I'm pretty happy with the way that the shadow lines turned out because you know, that's like one of the challenges I've been really working on, is creating like cool like shadow shapes or something that like you see comic artists do often for comic books. And so yeah, that was quite exciting that I finally did something I was fairly pleased with, because oftentimes when I was doing it on my own, you know, trying to create my own shapes, I never really liked it, even when I had a reference and it was being very interpretive. Like technically there was a screenshot from the game I took that I was referencing that didn't exactly have this kind of lighting on it though, so it was a lot of, you know, making up quite a bit other than like, you know, the suit itself. So yeah, I'm glad I went with like the shading of it being like there was actual lighting on him as opposed to just going flat black like I was originally intending to do, just because, you know, it gave it kind of, I guess, a cooler look to it, which was great because that's something I've been trying to achieve for a while. on to the background. Yeah, I definitely used a ruler. I don't know if you were able to tell, but there are actual pencil sketches done. Now, I did actually have proper perspective lines, but because it technically was 3-point perspective, I think the 3rd-point perspective was definitely off, and some of the stuff is like kind of wonky in the end. I think it still kind of works out because you can kind of cheat perspective on occasions, especially when the character is kind of like covering up the vanishing point. At least screwing with me quite a bit was actually the shadow of the ruler. That was one thing, because this is quite a thick ruler. It kind of was really messing up where I was placing the line. So to combat that, I tried adding dots first, I don't know if you could tell, and then drawing it in, but in some cases I still managed to screw up, and that's where like the line up there connecting, that screw up. Some of those really bugged me, so next time I also, I mean, when you are working with a bigger one, you kind of do need a bigger ruler, so I'm going to dig up and trying to find another, because I have a bunch of rulers lying around. So I'll grab another one, because this one's kind of inconvenient when you're kind of filming and you have the when I have that light on it, it just does not work out. It's very unhelpful. I freehanded the window details just because I'm pretty confident in drawing straight lines like that short of a distance, I suppose. That it's obviously not perfect, but I kind of still like it that way. You know, there's something about like just having it all with a ruler just makes it almost, I don't know how to describe it, too sterile. Like, it works for digital, I suppose. I'll always try to keep that straight, but like, I guess for traditional, it's like to get like some kind of detail. Here's, I believe, where the windows start in the distance. I suppose that some of them just don't get small enough and they're a bit weird, but they still kind of work out. Yeah, I feel like I started getting into a groove of all this. It was going, I guess, smoothly. Like, the final thing, I know it doesn't turn out perfect. I will definitely have that to work on and continue on. It's also, I guess I don't work with very smooth paper often enough, so I wasn't quite used to using long rollers and drawing all the perspective lines, and I really want to get more practice into that and drawing it out. So I guess this is, at least the background specifically, quite a bit of a warm-up. In the end, I still kind of like the way it turned out. It's just, I know it feels like maybe it's missing something in terms of some kind of pop. I didn't want to shade anything just because I really liked Miles just to really pop with his like black and red suit. I just really love that. There's something about it that just feels really cool. I had some ideas of what to add, maybe in terms of like maybe his electric ability, but I still wasn't entirely sure about it. So yeah, I kind of went with keeping it very simple in the background, and yeah. Since, funnily enough, actually backgrounds are something that I don't seem to be drawing a lot with characters lately, which is kind of annoying considering I do want to draw more comic stuff and I enjoy that. And backgrounds are important. It's funny. I say that it's funny because prior to a couple of years ago, I always loved drawing just landscapes or backgrounds or a room, a scene or something without any people in it whatsoever. I just hated drawing people. So now it's completely reversed where I seem to just, maybe it's just because I put all the mental energy in the character and then having to, create this entire city background. It's a lot of work, so I think the key thing is actually patience. I feel like I probably got impatient with the background. So my tip of do as I say, not as I do is definitely have way more patience, like just practice it, because I feel like there were times where I got very impatient with it, and I managed to figure that out in the end of it, and that's all right. I mean, I find again, this is not some masterful work, but quite just more of a fun artwork, right? Like, not everything is made that we draw is meant to be something like fantastic that needs to be like framed and put in a museum or something. But again, I know I feel like I sometimes sound a lot like I'm just knocking my own artwork. I guess it's I don't know, it's weird to always be like, oh, I love my artwork every time. I am happy with pretty much a lot of stuff that I've completed, especially like, I mean, video wise, right? I wouldn't really be putting it out there if I wasn't at least, 75% happy with it. And it's also a, kind of a fun experience thing, showing off, like, kind of, oh, this is, what I've done and how far I've come, and here are some tips how you can probably better yourself, and who knows, maybe you'll even, sorry, airplane passed by. Yeah, so, just trying to, give inspiration to people to keep drawing, and, you'll become better for sure, because I feel, miles away from where I was years ago or something, thinking I'd never get this far, and pun not intended, I just realized, but yeah. Anyway, quite a bit of rambling on, just because considering the actual filming and now the voice recording are completely like disjointed, and it's been a while. On top of everything, I got sick, so a lot of the stuff I was planning in my schedule got delayed. So yeah, it's all a bit of a rushed, delayed mess. Yay. Sort of. It's not that bad. It's not too bad. It's I guess it's like personal stuff, arbitrary dates, but you still want to complete and keep to a schedule even with your personal projects. I highly recommend that, to keep to a schedule. But yeah, here I'm touching up stuff with the whiteout stuff I have, or well, the deleter white ink stuff. What I'll just call it whiteout. I'm not entirely sure. Most of it has like Japanese on it. It's quite effective. I was for a while trying to decide whether just to stick to white acrylic gouache for whiting out stuff, but it's too thick, and so this white deleter stuff is pretty good. I think I've heard the PH Martins or something is supposed to be extremely good, so yeah, lots of options, I guess, and I just like finally went with one. Finishing up, even for the smaller parts, I guess, for this sort of like, I guess, more modern style building, I did actually continue using a roller 4, just because like with a more modern take, I felt like it kind of needs to be straighter almost, right? Because it's like there's imperfections of an older building, it's kind of crumbly, you can kind of add that, versus I guess like a newer building kind of deal is kind of what my brain was thinking when I was doing that. And then I'm finishing off with the last building. I probably could have, again, because I was looking at some references of the screenshots from the game. It was really weird, actually. When I was looking, I was like, what is this building? I mean, they mostly said they reference like a lot of like, I guess, I don't know if it's 100% accurate to New York, but yeah, it was just completely like brick and on two sides of it, at least from the screenshot. And I was like, what is even going on with this building? So my thought process for the bottom half of, well, not half, but like just the bottom of the artwork was kind of the buildings fading out almost, you know, the less and less details, and then kind of movement lines actually being drawn. I probably could have done with maybe a little bit thicker lines. Again, I didn't want to go with thicker no lines thicker than I drew a Spider-Man kind of thing, because I didn't want anything to take away from him. I did want him to be the focal point. So I suppose if I did this differently, I probably would go with like a grayscale background, and maybe thicker gray lines could probably work, sort of more like a jagged type of deal. So yeah, final results. I do like it in some ways. I know I could probably use a little more line weight in the background, but yeah. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next one.